I call this meeting to order. This is the July 14th, 2021 regular meeting of the Schertz Planning and Zoning Commission. Item number 2 on the agenda is to seat our alternate. We have Mr. Commissioner Odom joining us this evening. Item number 3, hearing of residents. Anybody? Nobody? Anybody send anything in? Nope. Alrighty. Item number 4 is the consent agenda. And we have a single item on there, the minutes for the June 23rd, 2021 regular meeting. Do we need to pull that for discussion? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
Moved. Second.
Okay, that was Commissioner Greenwald and Commissioner Haynes to approve. No discussion. Call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. 7 ayes, none opposed. Motion passes. Item number 5 is a public hearing. Public hearing will be open to receive a report from staff, the applicant, the adjoining property owners affected by the applicant's request, and any other interested persons. Upon completion, the public hearing will be closed. The commission will discuss and consider the application and may request additional information from staff or the applicant if required. After deliberation, the commission is asked to consider and act upon the following requests and make a recommendation to City Council if necessary. So 5A is SUP 2021-004, hold a public hearing, consider and make a recommendation on a request for a specific use permit to allow a convenience store with gas pumps on approximately 8.5 acres of land, more specifically described as the northwest corner of the intersection between IH-35 and Schwab Road, City of Schertz, Comal County, Texas. Megan?
Good evening, Commission. This is for SUP 2021-004, Megan Harrison, planner. So I'm going to go through this one kind of quickly just due to the history of it, if most of you are familiar. Here is the subject property right here at the corner of Schwab and then IH-35. This is the public hearing notice map. We did send out 5 public hearing notices. We have not received any response up to this date. Here is the current zoning, just indicating the property here with the star, again, Schwab and then IH-35. And then here is the aerial of the property as well. And then here is the current comp plan, just showing that the highway commercial is the designation for that hard corner. Here is the SUP exhibit. So the purpose of them coming back to the Planning and Zoning Commission was in 2019, the Planning and Zoning Commission approved their SUP to do the convenience store with gas pumps. And then in October 2019, City Council also approved that same SUP with the convenience stores. But since then, it has expired. Therefore, that's why they come back through to the SUP with the site plan. So here is the site plan of the overall, just showing the convenience store and then the parking, all the requirements that are needed for the site plan to be met, such as landscaping, parking, fire lane. All of that has been reviewed by all departments and has had no objections for that. Here is the landscaping sheet. In your staff report, as you probably noticed, there was some issues with some trees that they were going to be planting, which was the 7 Yulpon hollies, but they have now removed those and they're going to be doing 7 fragrant ashes, just due to that being a utility easement, just so the height requirement does not pass the utilities. So other than that, there has been no changes to the convenience store for this QT site. And then here's the building articulations as well as the gas canopy. So again, just to refresh, the P&Z Commission approved the SUP on September 11, 2019, and then it was approved with the conditions by City Council on October 22, 2019. However, the SUP did expire in 2020. Staff recommends the approval of the SUP as it is today, with the caveat, though, that a building permit is approved within 1 year of the adoption of the SUP, and the use begins operation within 2 years of the issuance of any necessary building permits. The applicant is here if there's any specific questions, and then I'm here as well for any questions.
All right, thank you, Megan. Does the applicant, do you wish to make any comments? Not required. You're welcome if you want to. No? All right, sir. Okay. So at this time, I'll open the public hearing for public input. Anyone wishing to address the commission on this topic, please step up to the microphone. I see we have the usual rush to speak. Nobody? One more time. Close public comment. Commissioners, comments, questions?
I didn't see anything when I looked through it, but there's no other changes to it.
No, sir.
Just the requirement that they get
The building permit.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
What did you say about trees again?
So along Schwab Road, they had 7 Yulpon hollies, but under the City of Schertz approved trees, that wasn't one of ours. And also with it being a utility easement, they had to coordinate with MBU to ensure that what they were going to be proposing to plant wasn't going to go over that max requirement of 20 feet, so they're going to be doing 7 fragrant ashes instead.
A fragrant ash?
Yes.
Is that the same as the Texas ash, or is it different?
I would have to look.
A fragrant ash? Hadn't heard that one. That's on our list?
Yes.
Okay, that's all right. I'll figure it out.
I'm trying to keep them out of the power lines.
Yes.
Anyone else? All right, we're looking for a motion for a recommendation to City Council to either approve or deny this request.
Mr. Chairman, I motion to approve SUP 2021-004 as presented.
And just to clarify, so that's with the conditions proposed by staff?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Second.
Where was that? Okay, Commissioner Odom. All right, so we have a motion from Commissioner Platt to recommend approval with conditions, second by Commissioner Odom. Is there any further discussion or questions? Call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. 7 ayes, none opposed, motion passes. Moving on to item 6.
Chairperson, if I may, just a reminder, after our long work session Friday, the joint shop, one of the changes that we're proposing to make is to eliminate the site plan requirement tied to the SUP. You'll still have an SUP required. You can decide if it's appropriate or not. You can add conditions, but to make it less expensive for applicants to come forward on the discretionary approval, and then likely we're going to extend those time frames to pull the permit and open to, again, avoid somebody having come back in short order, give them a bit more time. So again, you'll be seeing those. We'll be talking to you about it in a few weeks.
All right, thank you, sir. Item 6A, PC 2021-010, consider and act upon a request for approval of a preliminary plat for the Unit 6 of the Homestead Subdivision, an approximately 5.35 acre tract of land generally located approximately 1,900 feet from the intersection of Schwab Road and Kimball Way, City of Schertz, Guadalupe County, Texas. Megan?
So again, this one is for PC 2021-010. This is for Homestead Unit 6. So just to provide reference, the subject property is outlined in green, and this is the Homestead Parkway. And as you know, a little bit ago, Unit 7A is in this area, as long as this Unit 10. So Homestead Unit 6, so we'll skip to the plat exhibit. Homestead Unit 6 is going to establish 23 single-family residential lots. It is going to take access off of Homestead Parkway, as well as up past this direction off the screen is Kimball Way, which is going to be constructed with 7A. So 7A was the contingent for Unit 6 because the roadway does go through 6 that is going to be constructed with 7A, which was already previously completed through the final plat. The property is going to be serviced, so there is going to be water through Green Valley as well as City of Schertz. And then there is an 8-inch sewer line that's going to service this property that will also stub future. And then a preliminary drainage report has been reviewed by the city engineer and has been approved by them. And then any sidewalks, so with this unit kind of having a little bit of on Homestead Parkway, any sidewalks would obviously need to be constructed to the UDC standards. So as it is right now, staff is making the recommendation with no objections from all departments for Homestead Unit 6. And we do have the applicant here who is representing all 4 of the plats that you are going to be seeing before you tonight. So if there's any questions directly, they will be able to answer those.
All right, thank you. Commissioners?
I have a couple of comments, and I guess this would apply to A, B, C, and D. I've been driving through the development a few times in the last few weeks, and I've been not impressed with the quality of the streets. Notice today there's potholes, lots of soon-to-be potholes, lots of water in the street. I know we've had a lot of rain, but if a street is built correctly, there shouldn't be any water in the street days after the rain. We had the similar problem down south in the Halley Heights in that area, and I don't know if anything's been done about it, but if I'm going to spend 400 grand or 500 grand on a house in a neighborhood, I would expect better streets. So my question remains, as it was years ago, are our city standards lacking on what the requirement is for a city street? If not, I'd question the quality of the contractors. And if the contractors are okay, where's the city inspectors before we accept these streets that, I mean, the neighborhood hadn't been there a long time, and we've already got potholes, cracks, chips, holes in the street. I'm not impressed.
So maybe, Commissioner, and I haven't heard complaints come through, so I'd be happy if you and I want to take a trip up there, maybe on Friday. We can take a look at it and see what's going on, and then pull one of the inspectors and engineers with us.
It's very, very similar to what I've seen before in Halley Heights years ago. And I don't know if anything's been done about Halley Heights and all the Halley whatevers out there, but it's just a little disgusting to see that type of street so soon after construction. Yeah. And I don't know when we accept them and when we don't. I don't know if we have. Whatever the timeline is for when the city accepts the streets, I don't know. I'd be reluctant.
Yeah, we can certainly, so I'm certainly happy to, again, we can pull that data on when they were constructed, when we accepted them, what maintenance we've done on them since then. You and I can take a look up there, go up there again. I can bring one of the engineering inspectors or engineers, and we can kind of talk about that. We can also talk about what our folks have seen in terms of when that may have materialized, why it may be materialized, and what the issue be. Happy to run up there with you. I just have not heard that, so I've not noticed it, not saying it's not there, but happy to do that with you.
Thanks.
I just want to add to that. I live in the neighborhood, and there's a new development section. There's streets that aren't even open yet to the public to drive through, and they're already cracked and crumbling as well. They've
Yeah.
been there probably 2.5 months, 3 months, so.
And so we can certainly look at it. And again, maybe that's one thing we can answer is take a look at those cracks. And again, the potholes is one thing, but are those sort of superficial things that you might see? Or is it a more indicative of a bigger problem? Again, how much of this may have occurred as a result of the freeze we had that likely you have seen a lot of streets, even highways, have deteriorated quite substantially with the freeze we had and then all the rain we've had. Not saying that's the reason. Happy to go up with you. Let's take a look at it.
I would be curious, the one thing that pops into my mind with that discussion is the construction traffic. Are they using these surface streets to access the sites, or do they have their own way in?
Construction trucks use the streets that are built with the subdivision. There's not an alternate route for them to come in. But, I would say, and we can go look, if it's Homestead Parkway, again, that's built for a substantial amount of traffic. We would anticipate that going through. And even the residential neighborhoods, there's not really anything that different with Homestead in terms of access routes, number of lots, things like that from any other subdivisions that we have. So again, it should not be an issue of the construction trucks are different than what you would normally expect to cause it. If we're having a problem, it's a function of something else, I think.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, Commissioners, this is our action to take to either approve or deny this preliminary plat for Unit 6.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve PC 2021-010 as presented.
Okay, I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Greenwald. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second from Commissioner Broad. Any further questions or comments? Call the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. 7 ayes, none opposed. Motion passes. 6B, PC 2021-011, consider and act upon a request for approval of a preliminary plat for Unit 8 of the Homestead Subdivision, an approximately 40.97 acre tract of land, generally located approximately 1,000 feet from the intersection of Kimball Way and Schwab Road, City of Schertz, Guadalupe County, Texas.
This one is for 2021-011 for Homestead Unit 8. So this one is, as you just previously saw, Homestead Unit 6 is what would be right here. So Homestead Unit 8 essentially kind of encompasses around Homestead Unit 6. And then Homestead Parkway right here. So Homestead Unit 8, again, is that 40.97 acre tract of land. Is going to establish 77 single-family residential lots. This unit will have access onto Homestead Parkway as well as through Potter's Place, which is going to go up through here and then in turn go into Kimball Way, which will go up through 7A and go that direction. This property will also be serviced by the City of Schertz and Green Valley Water. It is going to be serviced for sewer for the City of Schertz and will be stubbed for future development. This one, again, with it having some of Homestead Parkway along it, it is going to have any type of sidewalk will have to be with the standards for the City of Schertz. And then as it is right now, staff is making the recommendation with the preliminary plat of Homestead Unit 8 with no objections from all departments as it is tonight.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, questions, comments?
A question up there, if you could go back a couple of slides. One more. Right there. I see a lot of trees up there in the northern section. Will those all be moved?
I believe these, if I'm not mistaken, these were all exempted trees. Okay, so these were either exempted or undesired trees. So there wasn't any protected or heritage trees on either of the Homestead Unit 6 or 8 sites.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we had a little bit of discussion about tree mitigation, so.
Yeah, it's fresh in your brain.
Well, with that aerial up there, Megan, the one we just approved, Unit 6, it sits between,
It'll sit right here.
right in there, okay.
And so, bear with me as I go to the next page. So you can probably maybe tell it better. So Homestead 6 is right here.
Okay. And then go back to the aerial, and Kimball Way is,
Kimball Way would be right about there.
okay. So these are just curiosity questions. So the building that's going on right up above it there, which unit is that? Do you know?
That's Homestead Unit 3B,
Okay,
3B and 4.
okay. So they have not started on 7 yet?
No, sir.
Okay. All right.
And where is Cibolo again? The blue line?
Below, so when I pull, so trying to see, it's hard to tell. So essentially right up abutting 8 right here.
Okay.
It's hard to tell in this aerial, but yes, Cibolo's right here. They're right next to
I
it.
got it. Thanks.
I do have a question for the developer. What's the plan with the retention ponds that are right there? You just going to cap them, drain them, and develop over them, or are you going to keep them?
Anyone else? If not, once again, this is action for us, and we would entertain a motion to approve or deny the preliminary plat for Unit 8.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve PC 2021-011 as presented.
Second.
Where was the second?
Plat.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion to approve PC 2021-011 from Commissioner Odom, a second from Commissioner Platt. Any further discussion or questions? Call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. 7 ayes, not opposed. Motion to approve is passed. Item C, PC 2021-023, consider and act upon a request for approval of a preliminary plat for Unit 5 of the Homestead Subdivision, an approximately 32.89 acre tract of land generally located 2,200 feet south of the intersection of Somerville and Homestead Parkway, City of Schertz, Guadalupe County, Texas.
I hope you're not tired of me yet.
Not yet.
This is for PC 2021-023 for Homestead Unit 5. So we're going across the street of Homestead Parkway. So you just approved Homestead 6 and Homestead 8, which is right here where my cursor is. So now we're on the other side for Homestead Unit 5, here outlined in green. So we'll have to skip with a couple pages just because this one's a pretty big one. It is going to be approximately that 33 acres, establishing 54 single-family residential lots. This one is going to take access off of Homestead Parkway, but it is also going to have access through Fred Couples down here in the south. This one will also be serviced by the City of Schertz and Green Valley Water, also be serviced by City of Schertz for sewer, and all sidewalks will be designed by the City of Schertz standards. I do want to point out, though, that this one does have the city park and open space within Homestead Unit 5. So that one it's now coming in, so that approximately 15 acres is now coming in with the Homestead Unit 5. So I know you've seen it we've talked about it, but it is coming in with this unit. So as it stands with everything, all departments have reviewed this, especially Parks has reviewed this, and they have no objections to what is being presented tonight for Homestead Unit 5. So with that being said, staff does recommend approval for Homestead Unit 5.
All right, thank you. Questions, comments? Could you go forward one more to the lower? No, I wanted to where you have the layout. Yeah, one more. There you go. Okay, the access to Fred Couples, that's unrestricted? That'll be an open street? It's not gated or anything, right? Okay. Is there a fee to file a plat?
Is there a fee to file
Yeah.
a plat? Yes, sir.
Okay. One of these days, I'm gonna have to sit down with someone and try to understand why they break it into so many pieces. I'm sure there are reasons, but,
What is the city park going to be?
So here is Homestead Parkway. So if you see my cursor, it's going to be this portion to the north of where the Homestead Unit 5 will be. But it is going to be a part of Homestead Unit 5. And Parks did review it, and Parks had no objections to this.
My map up, and I have a hard time seeing this. I see all the open land there.
you go back to the aerial, if you know.
The entire park was going to take that whole amount of space or not. So that was my question. Thank you.
If you're asking if
Well, it's a little hard.
this one,
Yeah, if you leave the aerial back up there, Megan, somewhere over here to the left, in what I call North Cliff, although I'm sure it's got its own name, there is already some city park there, and that's being extended down that hill into this area. Can you point to which piece that is?
The city piece is this one, I think that one as well.
Uh-huh.
So-
Okay.
So it'll connect with the park and be contiguous. The Parks Department has also reached out to the HOAs about dedicating those areas that they have for a city park. They can't really use them, they technically have to maintain them. And so you may recall, a couple months ago, there was a community input meeting up at the North Center to talk about the plan to generate support. Council approved applying for a grant from Texas Parks and Wildlife to help improve this area. So again, the idea is to try to finalize the donation dedication of these, have the whole thing linked up. The more active area of the park would be down here, and then trails, more passive and whatnot through here with connections from the neighborhoods and Homestead. So a very large kind of premier park is what we're planning for.
Okay, so we talked about the HOA portion.
Yes, sir?
So the HOA is charging residents fees for their portion of the park, and now they're going to
So no, let me,
play with that and have it all be a city-maintained park now?
so let me be clear. The HOAs own and control some of these parcels. And the HOA is responsible for maintenance of them. I don't think there's any maintenance going on of them. They're undeveloped, they're wooded, they're whatever. So I don't think there's an expense being incurred for maintaining them, with the exception of the kind of pool area right there. But the concept has been to see if the HOAs are willing to dedicate those over to the city, so the city then would own them and can incorporate it into the park.
And
But that's, let me be clear, that's unrelated to this, that's just background information.
yes, sir, I was going to apologize for muddying the waters. I thought it might help give you a bigger picture of what the total park would look like.
Yeah, no,
So-
useful there, but I'm not sure kind of where you were going with the question, but happy to answer it.
Well, where I was going is if the HOA was maintaining this, which it sounds like they would if it was maintainable, I'm referring back to Willow Grove.
Right,
We have an open space.
yep,
We're not 5 acres. We paid a fee for this open space. And I was wondering if now the developers come in and they get that open space from Homestead, that they take that area over, does that relinquish the HOA from charging the residents that part of the acreage? And it might be a totally weird question, but that's what I was thinking.
okay, so if I understand, let me try this, talk at you a minute. So areas that the HOA retains ownership of and that they own, so the outside area typically where the screening wall is, any little common areas, drainage waste, things like that, the HOA owns it, they're required to maintain it, and they charge the residents for that maintenance of it. Areas that they dedicate to the city, they don't have to then maintain. And so, in this case, the developer has enough land to dedicate a city park. It'll become a city park. They get parkland credit for that. The residents of Homestead don't have to pay to maintain that. But areas like this that are undevelopable, detention areas, retention areas, residents then would have to pay that fee to maintain, things like that. Not terribly common, but in this case, you have these areas that are owned by the HOAs. If their maintenance cost, residents pay it. In this case, because the city is willing to take them, it alleviates residents of that responsibility. But again, the only reason the city is willing to take these areas is because they're contiguous with this parkland that we currently have, and also ties into this larger park. So yeah, unfortunately, folks like Willow Grove, if they showed up and said, hey, you took this stuff from them, would you take ours? Answer's gonna be no, because of that 5-acre limitation. That's the only reason we're doing it here.
I promised I'd keep trying, so.
No, that's okay. And I will say, you know, we talked about that Friday a little bit, that trade-off of private areas that have to be maintained by residents, and you have a couple issues. One is those who remember Northcliffe and how we got Windy Swan Pool, that was an HOA pool to begin with. And as I understand it, could be wrong, but the residents no longer wanted to have that, no longer joined the HOA, were no longer paying for it. It was falling into disrepair, and they came and cut a deal with the city for the city to take it over. I think the city sort of said, subsequent to that, that's problematic for us to keep doing in the future. And I think we are cautious from a staff perspective about the level of amenity in neighborhoods and whether the HOAs really can afford to maintain that stuff long-term or not. So, no, we have a few of those that I think are problematic. I can appreciate Willow Grove, which is really, it's this piece of land, developer didn't do anything to it, and so it's not usable. And so what we're kind of doing different now is, if developers want credit for that private area, they've got to fix it up and make it usable. Residents will still maintain it, but they can actually use it. I've never seen anybody on that piece of land in Willow Grove ever. It's nice, got a big tree, but you can't really do much with it because it's not been fixed up.
We had a playscape out there, we had to take down because of safety issues.
Yeah,
It was a city park, and we had to follow the state rules, which were private green space.
that's right. Yep.
thank you so much.
Okay, hopefully that, and we can chat more.
I think I got it. Fine.
It does bring up an interesting question for me. So, again, I live in the neighborhood, I'm part of the HOA. The applicant is listed as ILF-NT, as the owner and applicant.
Right.
As far as I understand, that land belongs to the HOA. Is it still under
No.
ILF-NT, or is it HOA property? So,
Let me be clear in terms of what we're platting, if you want to go back to the plat. So the land at the top is owned by the developer, their entity name, and that's to be dedicated to the city for a park. The developer owns it now, we have an agreement on that. The rest of the property is still owned by the developer. Once the plat's approved, the final plat's approved, they go out and they build the infrastructure. With the filing of that plat, once the plat's filed, any of those common areas, and not the park, but do we have any kind of common areas you can see on this one, or are there?
No.
If there were, they would be turned over to the HOA at that point. So the way it works is the developer owns the land as they go through the platting process. They own the land as they build on it. When that plat is filed, that then sort of triggers that property going under the ownership of the HOA. And so that's where the Homestead HOA picks it up. Typically is how the process works, but the developer retains ownership till then. Does that make sense?
it makes sense, it's just not listed that way in the master agreement and the HOA docs, so it's a little different.
So typically they do, and I can't speak, and certainly I'm sure the developer will be happy to stay and chat with you after, but typically they do is they set it up in advance so that these areas automatically sort of pull in as they're platted. So often when you see the area covered by the homeowners association, typically includes all of the land on the front end, or sometimes it has provisions to allow the developer to add it. But being encumbered by the deed restrictions and part of the property covered by the homeowners association is different than who the owners are of that, and that may be where the confusion comes in.
All right, if there's no further discussion, again, this is our action to take to either approve or deny PC 2021-023, the preliminary plat for Unit 5.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve PC 2021-023, preliminary plat for Unit 5 of Homestead Subdivision as presented.
All right, have a motion to approve from Commissioner Greenwald. Do I have a second? And a second from Commissioner Haynes. Any further discussion? Call the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. 7 ayes, none opposed, motion passes. Item D, PC 2021-024, consider and act upon a request for approval of a preliminary plat for Unit 9 of the Homestead Subdivision, an approximately 17-acre tract of land generally located 2,200 feet south of the intersection of Somerville and Homestead Parkway, City of Schertz, Guadalupe County, Texas. One more time.
One more time.
One more time.
This is for PC 2021-024. I know my screen says 23, but that is an error. But this is for Homestead Unit 9. As you just previously approved, so Homestead Unit 5 would fit in right here within Homestead Unit 9, outlined here in green. Homestead Parkway, right here. So this subdivision is going to be approximately 17 acres and is going to encompass 49 single-family residential lots. It is going to have access, a little bit different, but it is going to have 2 points of access. So this first one's going to be through Hutchinson Way, which would connect to Homestead Parkway. And then the second point of access is going to be on the, on this bottom side through Hansford Way to Fred Couples. So with that being said, how Homestead Unit 9 is getting access essentially is through the construction for Homestead Unit 5, making those connections to Homestead Parkway, and then making that connection to Fred Couples. This property is going to be serviced for water for the City of Schertz and Green Valley. It is going to be serviced by City of Schertz for sewer. And then any and all sidewalks that are going to be developed within the development will be at the City of Schertz EDC requirements. So at this time, with that being said, Homestead Unit 9, staff does recommend approval based on engineering, public works, and fire, having no objections to the development.
Thank you, Megan. Commissioners? You can leave that one up. Okay, 2 points of access. That works for that one street that goes to the left and that cul-de-sac, but the one that comes down to, from there down in that big hook, where's the second point of access to that street?
So this is right here. So Homestead Parkway comes here and it does that little bit of a roundabout.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be another way, but then also up through here through Fred.
Okay.
So this one could, when this portion is developed, this plat would essentially have 3 ways. 2 ways to get onto Homestead Parkway, and then 1 to go through Homestead Unit 5 to access Fred Couples.
That's the big win, yes.
But it does right now, as it stands, as Homestead Unit 9, it does have the 2 points of access, 1 through Hutchinson Way to Homestead Parkway, and then 1 through Homestead Unit 5 through Fred Couples.
No, I disagree with you. Only part of Homestead Unit 9 has 2 points of access, okay? But this builds down to, that's right down to the Cibolo city limits now, correct? Yeah. And that short section of that bottom street, they'll actually, because that's part of the unit, that gets built, no, down at the very bottom. Yeah, that little curved part. That has to be built because it's part of the unit, correct?
Correct.
The only question is when they're going to finish, I guess that's Homestead Parkway out there?
Correct.
And the roundabout or whatever we're going to build there, okay? Any other questions, discussion?
One for me. The little to the lower right, where the roundabout is, just above the roundabout, you have a dark tag that can't be read. That arrow points over to property behind, there you go, that property. What does the dark tag tell us that property is?
Proposed, no, go ahead. I was going to say
Proposed storm sewer.
Thank you. I was like, even with me zooming in, it doesn't make it any better.
Proposed storm sewer? Going where?
But Don, do you want to speak to this one?
Yeah, excuse me. I really need you to come up to the microphone if you don't mind. I hated to inconvenience you, but, oh no, I should have said something earlier, but thank you.
The parcel in question is an open space area, and within the open space area, there is a storm sewer line proposed that is going to pick up storm drainage from the street surface and cross Homestead Parkway to the detention pond that previously you guys saw with Unit 8.
Okay, so this is just an open area.
It's an open space area, sir.
May have a sewer below it, but It's an open space,
That is correct.
owned by the homeowners association.
That is the plan, yes, sir.
So it's just an engineered way to, it's part of the drainage improvements that they're proposing so that they can, instead of trying to dump the water somewhere here, they're able to carry that water, what would that be, northeast, I guess, or across under Homestead into an existing, over here somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a way to move the water instead of trying to do,
Well, I understand,
Okay.
and I'm okay with that. And I'm okay if you just tell me out in that big-ass field, you put a big drainage culvert with some grates on top of it, and you ran it under the street over yonder.
okay.
I just didn't, the whole area can't be a sewer.
Yeah, gotcha. Understand. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Anything else, commissioners? Okay. One more time, we're looking for approval or denial. This one is PC 2021-024, preliminary plat for Unit 9 of Homestead Subdivision.
Mr. Chairman, I motion to approve PC 2021-024 as presented.
Second.
I'm sorry, where was that? All the way at the other end, okay. Have a motion to approve from Commissioner Platt, a second from Commissioner Odom. Any further discussion? Call the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. 7 ayes, none opposed. Motion to approve passes. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, moving on to item 7 is workshop and discussion and possible action in relation to UDC Section 21.4.3 notice requirements, specifically in relation to public hearing notification signs.
I'm going to make my apologies now. My
Okay.
computer decided it wanted to restart, so I don't have any printouts. So we'll have to imagine, if I need to, we do have an example of a paper size if we need to open it. But this was just based off the conversation we had a few meetings back with our current public hearing notice signs that either, residents aren't able to read them, too much wording. I know Mr. Bro made the comment about maybe adding a QR code. Emily spent some time, I know she's not here to present it, but she did spend some time to kind of take all of y'all's comments and put it in a form. So there is 2 examples that we do have. So this first one is just in the red text. So we are taking it from having it this way, and we're going to turn it. And that way we can at least get a little bit bigger writing in a sense. So just having that notice of public hearing, zone change pending in red. And so we did take a lot of the wording that we have right now on it, which is the date, the zoning, all of that. So we just took it down to the case number, what it's being proposed, the public hearing date. So we didn't have what we usually do is for P&Z date, and we have the bottom to be the city council. We just took that off and we left it with just one. And then having the City of Schertz website as well as phone number. So I just want to let y'all take a minute to just look at this first one, and then we can go to the second one. Is there any questions or comments on the first one that we?
One real quick question. Since you just have the public hearing date, just one, would you go out there and change it each time? One for the P&Z meeting, one for the city council meeting?
It may be one that we do, and it may be something that we kind of test out, possibly, that we do it to where we do the first time, we do the P&Z date, and then that's the only thing is, though, is staff would have to run out, depending on if it's not raining.
Right.
If we have to run out, change it and write on the city council. I could take my rain jacket, my rain boots, but I'm not always prepared. Or it may be one of those things that we realize, okay, man, like, it's too much, or we may just do, P&Z date, slash city council. So we may keep the two, but just essentially taking those two lines where we had originally broken out and just putting them on one line. So it may be one of those things that we tested out and just do the P and Z date, and then realize, no, let's stick with having P and Z and city council, but just putting them on one line.
I know the last time that we had a public hearing on a zone change, there was confusion because the residents, what P and Z was recommending, they thought that was the end of it. So they didn't realize they needed to go to city council
The
as
second.
well to advocate for what they wanted. So it probably would behoove us.
Be
to
more
have
beneficial
both.
to have P and Z on this date, and then maybe a slash or some kind of, indicating that this is a second date. But I know most of y'all are very familiar with our two lines that we have right now. It's broken up. So this kind of condenses all of that
Right.
to the one line, which I think is helpful to allow for more space.
Yeah, or even just putting the two dates. Might just work too. So either way, yep.
What's the physical size of this sign, the dimensions?
18 by 24.
Okay. So as you said, same sign, just turning it
We're
vertical.
just turning it.
Okay.
So if I take this paper and I unravel it, it's essentially
Okay, go on to the next
second
one.
one. So the second one is everything is the same. However, we did listen to Mr. Bro in the comment of the QR code. So that is the difference for this.
And that QR code would take them,
To the website to show them the information for the project. And then as well, I'm not sure if y'all have noticed, for any time we do public hearings, it's also being posted on the city website through that ribbon that kind of goes through fairly quickly. But it is also, that's where we are starting to put a lot of our public hearing notice as well.
I think that would be handy. So the idea is it's not a changing, it's the same QR code. It's a static code for the signs, right? I think the link, it's a good idea, again, but that would require somebody stopping, getting out of their car, but it's there if they want to use it.
Correct.
I have some other issues with the way you get to some things on the city website. I think this would be the most useful if it didn't take them to Schertz.com, but it took them to Schertz.com / wherever they actually need to go to find the list of.
And not having to go through clicking.
Yeah, and it's a good idea that we're putting these on there now, but if you've ever gone to the city website, unless you just sit there and watch those things or you hit it just right, otherwise you have to sit there and watch for these things and to come up on that scrolling. So in general, though, some of our concerns with this were the visibility from the street, or the legibility. I mean, they're certainly visible from the street, but the way they are now, you couldn't really read them
Correct.
unless you stopped and got out and walked over to the sign. Is this going to help that, do you think?
I think it's going to help in a sense that there's not so much wording. I think this catches your eye and just has you directly looking at, okay, this is for case number PC or ZC 2021, however. Whereas the other one, you kind of had to read, okay, existing, proposed, P&Z date, city council date. So there was a
Right.
little bit more to read.
So this is basically meant to be, hey, folks, we're looking at making a change here.
Something's taking place, and then for them to go to the city.
Now, I have not gone out and looked at how these are posted on the website. If I drive by and I see this sign and I say, hey, they're doing something, I wonder what it is, but I don't stop to get the case number. When I go to that list, is there enough information for me? Can I scroll down through that list and find that particular project without having the case number?
Yes, so on the how now that we've done it with having the public affairs, we send them the information and they put it on that ribbon. And so it's not just the PC number, but it's the description of it,
Okay.
as well as once you click it, it has all of the attachments that P&Z would see as well.
So it sounds like it's enough just for me to notice this sign that something's changing, go to the website, and I should be able, with some limited effort, find that particular,
Correct.
okay.
I think having it with that red text, I think also kind of helps too. It catches.
Because I know trying to go with bigger signs, there are other issues that crop up. And,
Correct.
we all think.
It's just 2. QR code, no QR code.
Well, here's the thing, commissioners, that's really what we're talking about tonight. I mean, do either one of these satisfy, improve the things enough, or do we want to have them look at a couple of other different things? I mean, it's up to you guys.
We did discuss changing the color. I thought we were going to see maybe a yellow sign or something.
I know that was something that was discussed, but I think the other issue was for anybody that is colorblind, if there is an issue with the background color, and then if any of the wording, it could just essentially be faded into it. So I think that's why we just essentially stuck with the white, but then made the notice more prominent in a red color. However, I know there's still some that have the color blindness with the red and green, but not having the sign be a full yellow or pink.
I think the QR codes are great. It's nice and clean. And realistically, if anyone cares that much about it, they're going to take the time to get the information they need. I think it's easier with the QR code, especially for, today's age, just to snap a picture of it and bring it up on the website. But
I agree. And just to remember, a few not too long ago, we didn't have any signs at all. So I think this is an improvement from the previous sign, and unless we make a billboard, I think this is sufficient.
I agree too. The white background gives you maximum differentiation or contrast between the lettering and the background. So I think the white background is just right, and the red is just good too. The QR code, I would say, just instead of going to the main page, if you click on one of the banners, it takes you to the page that has notice of public hearings. Right now, there's listing 2 public hearings that are on there. Take them to that page, and you can find out. You don't even need the case number from there. It has a description on each of the public hearings. You can figure out which is which because it gives location and everything in the description on the page. So I think the city has really improved the web page portion of the public hearing. And if we just update the QR code, I would go for that one myself.
All right, so since this is a UDC thing, is this something, I guess the question is, if we as a commission like this particular sign, the one, because certainly we can try it, just like we did the first one. And 6 months or a year from now, we can, if it's not working, we can look at it again. But my question is, if we decide we like this sign, where does it go from here? Does it have to go to council as a formal UDC change? Or is the wording in the UDC broad enough that you can just change the sign?
I believe it's going to have to go to city council.
Let me pull it up real quick, but I think it's broad enough that staff can determine with P&Z's input, so I don't think
Okay.
it has to go, but let me double check.
Yeah, I know we were talking about something where that's the way I read it, and I said, why are you even asking us? It says here you can do it, but I don't remember if that's it or not.
Yeah, I think, I'll look, but I think it says staff can do it. I think the idea is staff values planning and
Well,
input, and thus we wanted to find out what you thought.
we appreciate that. No, I'm just trying to clarify whether or not we were going to have to make a recommend, if,
Let me check real quick.
you know. And if we even have to take any action, I think the consensus up here, my feeling is the consensus is they like sign number 2, and I mean, we can put it in the form of a motion if we need to, but I'm just looking for some guidance here.
Commissioner, it says essentially, I'll read you the language, for posted notice, it specifies it shall be posted by the applicant a minimum of 11 days prior to the scheduled public hearing, remain posted during the course of the public hearing until such time as final action has been taken on the permit application. Signs shall be posted on the subject property and/or along public right-of-way in a format approved by the city manager or his or her designee. So with that, yeah, staff can make this change. But again, it doesn't take a motion. We're just looking for a consensus. So if the consensus is we have it, then that's all we need, and we'll move forward. And again, appreciate comments on what you guys think of it after.
Well, again, I think there's a consensus up here that we'll try this one.
And we'll see, and that was, I know staff kind of did have a little bit of hesitation with the QR code, just because if it, if we do the signs and it doesn't work, or if it's, it's going to the wrong public hearing notice that was done 2 months ago. I think that was the only reason why staff essentially made the recommendation to go with sign 1, just in case there is those quirks with the QR code that it doesn't work. However, though, with the commission it seems that most everybody would like to see the QR code tried, just to kind of give it a chance. However, if we start noticing that we get a lot of complaints that it's not working or it's not going where it needs to go, we can revisit it and possibly just go with option 1 without the QR code.
Yeah, I think the feeling is the format, that we like this format better than the landscape. This is the portrait version, and with some changes. I think we're all pretty much like that.
Yes.
And whether or not the QR code would be nice, and would certainly make it more convenient. That's really an IT thing, but certainly I wouldn't go out and spend a bunch of money having a bunch of signs made up with a QR code unless I, tested it, and.
And it seems that a couple people have already tried testing, and it seems to have already started working very, very well.
This QR code does work. I tried it out at home. I just tried it here as well,
okay.
just on the computer monitor.
That's already a good sign.
Of course, the issue is then somehow you've got to maintain that link with that QR code to, and that may or may not become an issue, but that's an IT thing. You just, I've got a big hammer you can borrow, okay?
It's not, and if you will, it's not hard to maintain that link.
Yeah.
The key is maintaining the content on the web page.
Gotcha.
And
Yes,
that's
sir.
what we want to do
Okay.
anyway, so.
I'd say check with IT to find out if that's a standalone page or if that's one of the pages that it's only active when there is a public hearing notice. And because if it's only active during a public hearing notice, that link may change by a character or something.
I think the plan is to have it continuously active, and on that public notice, if there are no active items, we'll have something that says there are currently no active items.
Then there shouldn't be a problem updating this QR code to take you directly to that page.
All right, commissioners, are you comfortable with moving on?
Yeah, this one worked. Didn't even have to click one time, and I found tonight's agenda item.
Cool. All right. Okay, moving on to item 8, to requests and announcements, requests by commissioners. Anyone have anything for future agenda that they'd like to discuss? Nothing.
One item.
Okay.
To bring forth. We have all this building and construction, residential areas going in, and I'd like to know, once these are all completed, who's responsible for making sure that the final condition of the streets and the, yeah, it's green.
I believe you now, all right. My hearing's just going bad.
The allergies.
I thought mine was too. But with the Dollar General at Schertz at 1518 and Schaefer Road, there's still like a 15-foot, the intersection, I understand the intersection, TxDOT has some,
Right.
City of Schertz has them. The entrance is, we only have one entrance, Dollar General, and that's off of Schaefer Road.
Right.
And all of the 18-wheelers have to make their turns onto that road to
Right.
make their turn into the Dollar General. Dollar General's been open for quite some time now, and that area is still not completed. There's still a street cut that needs to be fixed.
Right.
And the entrance into the store is atrocious. I have made, I do have a letter out to Dollar General expressing concern for completion of that, and they said they'd get back. But I don't know, maybe this isn't the venue to express this concern, but there's a lot of stuff going on in our city that, once things are completed, sometimes it seems like we're done, we're not gonna finish it.
Sure, so let me see if I can give you a factual answer, just so the commission has it, not to get in a long debate, but just to answer that, and then we can chat afterwards. But the Dollar General is a bit of an unusual circumstance, and I have not been out there in a little while to look at it, but what I believe is still to be the case, the problem they had on Dollar General, they got it built, they got the parking lot built. Developers often have to wait on franchise utility work. So they have to wait on AT&T and CPS and Southwestern Bell or cable or whoever it is. In this case, AT&T with the overhead line had a pole that was in the area that Dollar General dedicated for right-of-way on Schaefer to expand that part of Schaefer that's not been completed that you referenced. They struggled to get AT&T out there to do it. They did some of the work, but did it wrong. They moved a pole. It needed to be placed underground. They were really struggling with the pandemic, everything else going on, everything they could, asking us to call AT&T. We granted them a temporary CO to get Dollar General open while that is occurring. They have reached out to us a number of times to communicate update status, to ask for help pushing it forward. We've talked to the folks from AT&T. And so I will tell you, that one is a bit of an unusual. Normally, that store would not have gotten open until that work with the additional pavement and the entrance had been completed. In this case, there was a problem with AT&T. To work with them, staff granted the temp CO to get them in, to get them open, but it has taken much longer than everyone would like. So valid concern, perfectly fair enough. I will say this one's a bit unusual. Normally what happens is they have to get that done to get the CO, even when we do a development agreement. This was a bit of an unusual circumstance and has dragged on. The alternative is Dollar General would not have been open for this whole time. And so again, not a perfect solution settled on, and I'm happy to talk with you off the line, but
Yeah, I
understand.
need to jump in here real quick. There's the danger of this running into a discussion which is not on the agenda. Commissioner, you're more than welcome. But I do want to ask, is this, because I wrote down construction wrap-up, or some kind of a presentation on who's responsible for doing what and the whole process of getting the C of O, kind of what you've outlined there. Is that something you'd still like to see on the agenda? Or,
I would.
okay.
And are there other examples where you've seen that?
Excuse me?
Are there other examples where the commission has seen that? Just
Well,
to help us.
it might be beneficial just to see what the process is.
Okay.
You know, we do the plats and you do the site plans and issue the building permits. Well, what's the final,
Happy to
how
do
does
a
all that wrap
presentation
up?
Next meeting, we can spend time.
Well,
Yep.
when you can fit it in.
Yeah, no, we
okay.
can add it. It's very
I
straightforward.
know you're a little short-handed right now, so.
It's easy enough to do. Yeah, happy.
Is that satisfactory, Ricky? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else? All right, item B, announcements by commissioners. Anybody have anything? Announcements by city staff.
So the only announcement that we have is we received a a site plan for Verde Enterprise Business Park off of Lookout Road. This is the addition to their already existing buildings 1 through 4. So this is now going to be building 5 and 6, so approximately 775,000 square foot buildings to be warehouse and office, just as they previously have been for buildings 1 through 4. Other than that, there's no other announcements.
I
Yeah,
think
we have
there's probably,
Or
One more, if I will, and this goes back to the earlier item.
okay,
Chairperson Outlaw is correct. There is a choke point for that last plat that was approved, not coming through the roundabout. Because no waiver was granted specifically to allow that, they would still have to provide 2 points of access, not an excessive cul-de-sac. We'll remind them of that. Essentially, I think as you caught, that roundabout right at the end of the road from the earlier plat must be built to provide the connection around. So we'll make them aware of it. I think that was
Okay.
always the intent, but no, you are correct. We missed that, and it should have been included,
okay.
one of those.
And I'll get with you after the meeting. I was going to suggest you make one more announcement about Emily. I'm sure the commissioners would like to hear.
So Emily did have her son, Henry. He was born Sunday at 7:34 p.m. and they got to go home today. So they are both doing well. So she is smitten over him, and he is a cutie patootie. So, but they are both doing well, and they got to go home today. So she's very excited, but she says she already misses everybody. So,
Okay,
yes, that is the last announcement.
all right.
Planning.
Well, you're doing what we say a yeoman's job right now, filling in for all that. Okay, item 9, information, I have to, anyway, but no discussion there. And that's the end of business tonight, so this meeting's adjourned.